This is MeetSean, where we break down real life topics insurance, annuities, real estate, travel planning, and home ownership so you can make smarter moves. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something that's, less about just making more money and more about building a better life. We're talking about financial security and really the freedom that comes with it, because for so many people, big dreams like traveling or changing careers, they just feel so far away because of money stress.
They do.
So our mission today is pretty simple. We've gone through a ton of articles, research, all sorts of guides, and we're going to pull out the core strategies, the things you can actually do to make financial freedom a real planned out destination.
That's it, exactly. And I think we have to start by defining what we even mean by financial security. It's not about being super rich.
Right.
Sources all agree.
Yeah.
It's about having a solid base of savings and investments that, lets you live the life you actually want without that constant crushing anxiety about money.
And when you take away that chronic stress, what does that actually do for you? I mean, how much stronger does that make your life?
It builds a buffer, a huge one. It makes you so much more resilient to the shocks that life just throws at you. A job loss, a medical bill.
A car breaking down?
Exactly. Things that would absolutely sink someone living paycheck to paycheck become, manageable problems instead of total crises. And the research is clear. Cutting that stress has real, measurable benefits for your health.
That focus on freedom it's everything. It reminds me of a couple of quotes that really frame this whole deep dive. First one is from Warren Buffett, who talks about having that long-term view. He said, "Do what you would do if you were going to be there forever."
And that ties perfectly into what Sue Zorman says, which I think is the whole philosophy here. She says, financial security is not just about wealth. It's about the freedom to live life on your own terms.
That's the goal. That's the prize.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for our roadmap today, we're going to follow the path laid out in the sources. First, we'll assess where you are, then build a safety net. After that, we'll get into growing your wealth, tackling debt and taxes, and finally, protecting everything you've built.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, let's unpack this. The very first step is always figuring out where you stand. But honestly, this is the part people hate the most. It's just tedious.
It is. The inertia is real.
So how do we get a clear picture of our financial health without just getting completely overwhelmed?
You're right. That's the key. The sources say you have to start by just gathering the documents, all of them. Income, expenses, debts, savings. But the trick is to use technology. Don't sit there with paper statements.
Please don't.
No. Use an app or a spreadsheet that connects to your accounts and just pulls it all in automatically. Seeing it all visualized, that's what helps you spot where the money's really going.
So once we have that data, we build the map. And that map is the budget. The research is so clear on this. It's not about cutting everything out. It's about being disciplined.
Exactly. A budget is just a tool for deciding where your money should go. And instead of just listing expenses, one model that comes up again and again is the 50-30-20 rule.
Okay, break that down.
50% of your after-tax pay goes to your absolute needs. Rent, food, utilities. 30% can go to your wants, restaurants, hobbies. But the critical part is the last 20%. That has to go to savings and paying down debt first.
You pay yourself first.
You pay your future self before you pay for tonight's pizza. And you have to commit not just to making the budget, but to looking at it again regularly.
Because life happens.
Absolutely. Gas prices go up, you have a new expense. If you don't review that budget every month, or at least every quarter, it just becomes useless.
All right, this is where it starts to get interesting, more proactive. We have the budget. Now, the first priority is a savings plan, starting with that safety net. Why is the emergency fund the very first thing we do? Before investing, before anything else?
Because it protects everything else. It protects your future growth. That fund is what absorbs the unexpected hits, the job loss, the root canal. If you don't have it and something bad happens, what do? You sell your investment at the worst possible time, or even worse, you rack up a ton of high-interest credit card debt. It's there to stop you from going backwards.
So what's the target? How much should we be aiming for?
The consensus is about 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. And that means your essential costs, what you need to survive. Calculate that monthly number, and that's your goal.
That can sound like a huge number to someone starting from zero.
It can. So start small. Aim for 1 month first. And keep it somewhere liquid, like a high-yield savings account. Safe, easy to get to, and earning a little bit of interest.
Okay, so the safety net is in place. Now we can shift from just saving to actually growing our wealth. What are the main ways the sources say to do that?
So now we're moving past cash and into things that are designed to beat inflation over time. You've got your stocks, which is owning a piece of a company, highest potential for growth, but also more risk.
More volatile, yeah.
Then you have bonds. That's basically a loan you're making to a company or a government.
Yeah.
They give you steady income and they're more stable. And of course, there's real estate for rental income and, you hope, appreciation.
What about for people who don't want to pick individual stocks, the funds, right?
Exactly. That's where mutual funds and, more importantly these days, exchange-traded funds, ETFs, come in. They just pool money to buy a whole basket of assets.
And ETFs are a big deal now.
A huge deal because they trade on an exchange, just like a stock, so they're easy to buy and sell. And crucially, they tend to have much lower fees-expense ratios than the older mutual funds. And those fees really eat into your returns over time.
With all the ups and downs in the market, what's the one strategy that applies to everything? The most critical one for success?
Diversification. Hands down. It's been called the only free lunch in finance.
I've heard that.
By spreading your money across different things, stocks, bonds, real estate, maybe some international stuff, you soften the blow if any one area does poorly. It just smooths out the ride.
But that's hard, isn't it? Especially when you're new to this. You see one tech stock going to the moon and you just want to put everything in it. How do you fight that feeling?
That's the enemy right there. The research calls it FOMO, fear of missing out. It kills diversification. The key is to have a system, a discipline, and that system is rebalancing.
So what does that look like in practice?
Let's say you decide you want 60% of your portfolio in stocks, but the stocks have a great year, and now they make up 75% of your money. Rebalancing just means you sell some of those stocks and buy more bonds to get back to your 60% target.
Well, you're forced to sell high and buy low.
You are. It takes the emotion completely out of the equation.
Okay, if we connect this to the bigger picture, debt is probably the biggest thing that holds people back, psychologically and financially.
It's a huge obstacle. And we have to be clear, not all debt is created equal. There's debt that can help you and debt that just destroys you.
I think a lot of people would say that any big debt, especially something like student loans, it just feels like bad debt. It's such a burden.
I get that. But the sources define good debt by its potential return on investment and its interest rate. So a mortgage on a house that's gaining value or a student loan that dramatically increases your lifetime earnings, that can be good debt. It's an investment.
And it usually has a lower interest rate.
Exactly. Bad debt is the opposite. High interest rates, no potential for financial gain. Think credit card debt or a loan for a fancy car that loses half its value when you drive it off the lot. The interest rate is the killer.
So once we've identified that bad high interest debt, what are the game plans for attacking it? The sources lay out 3 main methods.
Right, and they're designed for different kinds of people.
Yeah.
First is the snowball method. You list your debts from smallest balance to largest, and you attack the smallest one first, making minimum payments on the others.
And that's not the best one mathematically.
No, but it's the best one for your brain. You get a quick win, you pay off a debt, and that momentum builds. It's a behavioral strategy.
Okay, what's the math-focused one?
That's the avalanche method. Here, you ignore the balances and focus purely on the highest interest rate. You throw all your extra money at that one. This will save you the most money in interest over time. It's for the disciplined person who can stick with it.
And the third option?
Debt consolidation. This is where you roll a bunch of debts into one new loan, hopefully with a much lower interest rate. It simplifies your life to one payment, but you need good credit to get a good rate for it to be worth it.
Let's switch gears to another big hurdle, taxes. Understanding them is so important because it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep.
Absolutely. And the core thing to get right is the difference between a deduction and a credit.
Okay, let's hear it.
A tax deduction just lowers your taxable income. So if you make $100,000 and have $10,000 in deductions, you only pay tax on $90,000. But a tax credit is way better. It's a dollar-for-dollar reduction of your actual tax bill. A $1,000 credit saves you $1,000.
Credits are king. So how do we use that idea strategically? How do we save for the future and lower our tax bill right now?
The single most powerful strategy is using tax-advantaged retirement accounts. Your 401k at work or an IRA you open yourself.
And you have to know the difference between traditional and Roth.
You do. A traditional 401k or IRA gives you the tax break today. Your contribution is tax deductible now, but you pay taxes on the money when you take it out in retirement.
And a Roth.
A Roth is the reverse. You put in after-tax money, so no deduction now, but all the growth and all your withdrawals in retirement are 100% tax-free. The choice really comes down to whether you think your tax rate will be higher now or in retirement.
So let's bring this all together for long-term security. It's not enough to build wealth. You have to protect it because it can disappear fast if you're not careful.
That's right. Asset protection is the foundation of real, lasting freedom. And insurance is your first line of defense. We're talking about the basics like property insurance for your home.
Right.
And liability insurance in case you get sued. For anyone with a decent net worth, umbrella insurance is non-negotiable.
At what point does someone need to start thinking about umbrella insurance?
The general rule of thumb from the sources is that once your net worth is more than the liability limits on your home and auto insurance, say $250,000 or $500,000, you need that extra layer of protection. It's actually pretty cheap for what it gives you.
And then there's estate planning. This always feels like something only billionaires need to worry about.
That is such a huge misconception. Everyone needs an estate plan. It's just about making sure your assets go where you want them to go, with the least amount of stress and cost for your family. You need a will, for sure. Powers of attorney for health and finances in case you can't make decisions. And for many people, a trust.
Can you just quickly explain the big advantage of a trust over just having a will?
The biggest benefit is that assets in a trust completely bypass probate. Probate is the long, public, and often expensive court process for validating a will. A trust makes the transfer of assets faster, private, and cheaper.
And just like a budget, you have to update it.
You have to. Life changes. You get married, have kids, get divorced. Your plan needs to change with you.
Okay, let's talk about specific retirement goals. We've talked about the accounts, the 401k, and IRAs. The best advice is always the simplest, isn't it? Take the employer match.
It's a total non-negotiable. It's free money. It's an instant guaranteed return on your investment. If your company matches up to 6%, you have to put in at least 6%. No excuses.
So this brings us to a really specific piece of data from the research. These age-based savings targets, they're pretty aggressive. The goal is to replace about 70 to 80% of your income in retirement.
They are aggressive, but they give you a clear target to shoot for. So the recommendations are, by age 30, you should have 1x your annual income saved.
1 times your salary by 30.
By age 40, it's 3x your annual income. By 55, it jumps to 7x. And by the time you're ready to retire, around age 67, the goal is to have 10x your annual income saved.
Wow. 10 times your income by 67. That's a huge mountain to climb. Where do people usually fall off track with goals like that?
It's usually just inertia. And a lack of understanding, which really brings up the next point, which is how do you stay on top of this stuff? This is a 40-year journey. You have to keep learning.
Continuous education.
Right. Financial literacy is what lets you make smart choices and avoid getting taken advantage of. There's so many good resources now, websites, books, online courses.
And knowing when to ask for help.
And knowing when to get an advisor. A good financial advisor can build a plan tailored just for you, especially when life gets complicated.
And life always gets complicated. You get married, you buy a house, you have kids, the budget you had when you were single just gets thrown out the window.
It's useless. So for those big changes, you have to do a full overhaul. Figure out your new net worth, set new goals like saving for a down payment or for college, and build a whole new budget that includes things like a mortgage or childcare or more health insurance.
And checking in on that plan regularly.
Constantly. It's essential.
So finally, how do you stay motivated? The goal is decades away. It's easy to lose focus.
You have to set smaller milestones.
Yeah.
Celebrate the wins. When you pay off a student loan or when you finally hit that 1-month emergency fund goal, you have to acknowledge it. That's what keeps you going. You have to focus on the freedom you're buying with every single dollar you save.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap of the core strategy for you, the listener. First, you start with a real honest budget. Something like 50-30-20 where savings comes first.
Then build that emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of essential expenses.
From there, you invest wisely. You diversify, you rebalance, and you really understand the difference between good debt and harmful high-interest debt so you can attack it.
And finally, protect everything. Get the right insurance, like umbrella coverage, and get a real estate plan with a trust to make things easy on your family.
And we come full circle back to that quote that started this whole deep dive. Financial security is not just about wealth. It's about the freedom to live life on your own terms.
And I think the final thought here is that you don't have to wait until you hit that 10x retirement goal to feel that freedom. Every single milestone you hit along the way, paying off a credit card, hitting that 1x savings goal by 30, Every one of those buys you a little piece of freedom, a little more peace of mind, right now, today. So the question for you is, what small strategic milestone could you hit this week to get a taste of that future freedom?
That's it for today's Meet Sean. If this helped, follow the show and share this episode with one person who needs it. See you next time.